Danae Shanti and I had a very beautiful conversation right now, and it was about singing children home. Each of us has an inner child, so it's also about bringing home to ourselves our own essence. It's about so many different tools and techniques that she gives us. At the same time, she also invites us to be involved in her actual project, which is called Singing Children Home. We're going to be reading more about that and listening more about that because that's where she helps children who are ill to find their voice of singing. And the way she does it is just amazing. We also went over breath and the voice and what we want to convey and communication. So many different inspiring voices that we heard just by she and me talking to one another. I really invite you to listen and to give us your comments and to give us your voice on what you have heard and seen. Thank you so much. Welcome, Danae. I'm so happy to be having this conversation with you. I'd love to introduce you to our audience. Danae Yume Shanti has traveled the world igniting love through song and inspirational talks, which are focused on helping children to find their inner power and creative genius. She is an author, a show host, and a founder of Singing Children Home. Its significance is that it brings power songs, and I think that is also one of her signature programs, Power Songs. Danae Yume is celebrated for her investment in creating a loving world for our children. She's celebrated for many other things as well, and we're going to uncover some of them in this conversation. Danae, how wonderful to meet you again over here.
Thank you, Meenakshi. Thank you for inviting me to come and be a guest on your podcast. I know you and I have fun together, so I'm really excited about today.
Yeah, so am I. You know, Danae, it's strange, but the first thing that I want to talk about is voice.
Mhm.
When you're saying voice, what is it you're meaning? Of course, there's my voice, but then there's also what I'm speaking. So, what is it that you mean to convey?
Yeah, that's a great question because there's a lot of meaning to that for me. So I'm going to start off with the esoteric, which is not very practical, but it's sort of a lens, right? So if you think about how is sound happening through your body, not the logistics, vocal cords and breath, but what is it that's speaking? How is speaking even happening? How does your body know to offer sound through your voice? How does your body even, the innate intelligence behind that, what is that? And a lot of people identify themselves by their voice. I like my voice. I don't like my voice. I have a quiet voice today. My voice is so loud. All these different opinions. The bottom line is the voice is an instrument through which the living consciousness can interact and address and speak. And I think that's amazing. Just that. Like sometimes I say to my voice students who are adults, what is your voice to you? What is it? And they go deeper and deeper until they, lock onto that idea. So that's one meaning of voice that I personally carry and that I love. There's also the voice, right? Are you giving voice to your truth? Are you giving voice to what it is you're here to contribute to the world? Like with you, Meenakshi, you have the co-creator circle here, and you are giving voice not only to yourself and all the wisdom you have to offer, you're inviting other people to come and give voice in a container where they're safe and they're welcomed and they're invited. So voice is also a tool for offering transformation to one another. And a lot of times when I work with professional speakers, their voice gets tired. When your voice gets tired, it's because you're speaking from your vocal cords. And what we need to do is fully embody, like the whole body is an instrument. So when the breath comes down to the pubic bone and we inflate the lower body, then it's like a bellows to a fire. All that breath, all that oxygen, when we're releasing it, when we're speaking, it gives rise to the voice and carries the voice forward out of us, which is a very different sensation, if you'd like to try it, than, speaking from here to get my words out. So if you'd like to play with that, we could play with that for a moment just to see how it feels in your body.
Yeah, I'd love that because, recently I started being very uncomfortable about my voice. And this, I'm talking of the physicality of it and not because I felt it wasn't adequately in resonance with the message with the other voice, the message voice that I want to convey. Of course, people around me are very kind people. No, Meenakshi, your voice is fine. Mom, your voice is fine, etc., etc. But I felt that it was too what you are saying. I didn't realize that, but it must have been coming from here. Not because of talking a lot, but
Mhm.
who know? But I thought aging. So
Yeah.
this bellows that you're talking about. I mean, I started going to voice therapy and they did tell me a few exercises, but I would love it if you would, have us do that.
Yeah, and everybody who's watching can do this with us together. So I'd love to invite you to place one hand on your lower belly between your navel and your pubic bone, and your palm will be going right across your lower center. So let's just practice by breathing in. When you breathe in, your palm should be getting pushed away from your body. And when you exhale, your palm comes back toward your spine. So let's just play with that all together. Breath in, inflating the lower abdomen, breath out, letting go. And let's do that again. Breathing in and exhaling. So can you feel your breath down that low, Meenakshi?
I can because it's nice when I focus not here on my voice,
Yeah.
but on the belly.
Right. Okay. So let's use an ah sound. And right now, let's breathe in. Everyone at home can do this too. Belly's
So
still
it's
on
from the mouth. You're breathing
from the
from
mouth.
the mouth.
I'll demonstrate it first. So hear it first. I'm going to demonstrate the difference between pushing a sound from my vocal cords or letting the body use my vocal cords to make sound. So watch and listen first, everyone at home. So this is pushing ah from my vocal cords, from my throat. Ah, it's not pleasant to hear. Nothing wrong with my voice. There's nothing wrong with your voice. However, it doesn't feel pleasant in my body. It doesn't nourish me. It doesn't give me life force. And to the person hearing that, it's like, right? So now I'm going to demonstrate from the full body sound. There's a different quality of presence, of, if you will, softness yet fullness, because my breath, which is our life force, is carrying the sound forward from my body. Yeah. So let's try that together. Let's do the throat first. So just pushing from here, go ahead and say, ah, ah. And it doesn't matter if we like how we sound or not. Try it one more time so you could feel the disconnect from your heart and just the perfunctory of making a sound. Ah. And now we'll take a big breath down into our hands and just let the breath carry the sound. Ah. Ah. Let's do that one more time, just so we bring it home a little bit. Breathing in. So I'm curious, what do you notice in your own experience, Meenakshi?
I did notice what you were saying, Danae, that two things. One, the quality of the voice became so much nicer. But two, that I really have to practice this breath. so that it becomes second nature, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
do you feel that this is a breath that we should do all the time, or only when we need to speak or think?
Well, that's a great question because, I mean, as you know, I'm also a breath trainer, right? So they go together. Anytime, like the whole time I'm speaking with you on this podcast, I'm breathing from my lower abdomen and I'm allowing the breath of life to carry my sound out to you because from an energetic point of view and from a audio point of view, it's I'm conveying love. I'm conveying the fullness of who I am in my voice. If I were to talk to you from my throat, it sounds harsh and cut off, and I sound very mental and analytical, robot like. And it's not pleasant. It doesn't nourish my body and it doesn't feed you either. So I feel people being embodied down in their body all the time is what the world needs right now in a very big way. You know, when we stay up here, like from the chest up with our breathing, and we breathe only in our chest and our shoulders are going up and down and our lungs are going up and down, that's actually stress breathing. And that activates the fight or flight response, which puts people in a state of anxiety and stress. So I recommend breath as medicine if we all slow down enough to feel our breath in the lower parts of our body, and we allow that bellows of air to feed our vocal cords when we're speaking, then we're de-escalating our anxiety and we're actually activating the relaxation response in our own nervous system. And when people are resonant fields, like if you had two guitars next to each other and I plucked a string on one guitar, this other guitar would start humming the same note. We're vibrational. Life is made of vibration everywhere. So when I'm speaking to you from a place of nurturance and nourishment in my own system, I'm offering that vibration to you. And you can pick up on that vibration and it can help settle you. So it's also a gift of presence, how we use our voice and where we're speaking from, where we're breathing from.
You're right, you know, because when if I focus on the breath and not on the voice, then it
Mhm.
just it gives a feeling of, like you said, rest and relaxation. And
Yeah.
so then, of course, my parasympathetic is kicking in and helping me to heal. So, yes, everything you said, I can feel that. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can even play with that through the whole podcast.
Well, I'm going to keep breathing and I'm going to keep asking you questions.
Great.
Danae, you know, I love how you say bringing home because you even here you said, you know, you bring it home. What does that convey to you, and what are you conveying with that, just that phrase?
Mm. Uh, That's fun because as we're speaking, I don't have any agenda for what I'm saying. So I'm like, did I say that? um, for me, staying okay. So here's another example. It's almost visual, but not quite. If I'm leaving myself, like I'm so excited to talk to you. I'm just like leaving my body and I'm projecting my attention and my voice out here. And you can see that I'm leaning into you instead of staying home with myself. And I could be just as excited to talk with you right now and stay with me, stay home in my body. Embodied presence is everything for us, especially with all the big changes going on the planet right now. The more we're resting at home here, I'm still communicating with you. My heart is still open to both of us, but I don't need to lean outside of my body to reach you with my voice. You could feel the difference, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. Maybe if more of our, I don't call them leaders so much as the government officials would
Yeah.
do that, they
Yeah.
would become true leaders, you know?
Yeah.
And that's all I'm going to say about that right now.
I'm not going to say a word because I have a lot to say. I'm, oh, I agree with you 100%.
I wanted to ask you, Danae, how did you decide to focus on voice? What made you think about one, the physicality of it, and two, of course, the other aspect of communicating?
You ask really wonderful questions. Um, since I was a little girl, even at camp, even in kindergarten, I loved to sing. That was just my way of soothing myself. I grew up with the radio next to my head. I knew every jingle, every song, every note, every lyric. Singing has always been medicine for me. And my kind of a soul is a creative. So I found myself wanting to sing with other people. Like in school, you join the choir and everyone sings together. And I have such a sensitive body. I always felt what it's like to have a lot of voices joining together. And for me, that meant union. It meant bringing ourselves together through sound. And I just experienced love that way. So as I continued getting older, the inspiration came to, oh, what if I put a concert together? What if I put people in my community in the concert? What if I take other singers who are way better than I am and put them in my concert? And that's kind of how it started. And that started at a fairly young age. I was doing fundraisers for the American Cancer Society. And so to me, voice can be used as a weapon to do harm and cause violence, or voice can be an invitation of welcome and inclusion and kindness. And I feel like both the spoken word, how we phrase what we say, and singing all are possibilities for kindness. Marshall Rosenberg with nonviolent communication does a wonderful body of work on nonviolent communication. I don't know if I answered your question, but that's what came out. I'm happy to revisit your question if I didn't.
I think you did. Like you said, there's always I mean, not in these words, but there's a physicality of a question, or, I mean, a very literal interpretation. And then there's an understanding of it, the environment of that. But to ask this question again, what about the voice, the physical voice? Because you
Yeah,
said you also train voice.
yeah,
So
the physical voice. So I noticed other people had so much more vocal power than I did when I was singing. Like I met my vocal coach not by knowing she was even in Boulder. I heard, I was in the goddess circle and I heard her singing and I was blown away. I was just like, oh, that's how I feel in my being. That's like my essence coming out of that woman's voice. How does she do that? And you know how the universe is for you. So, of course, within 24 hours, I learned her name and that she was in Boulder and that she was accepting voice students. So I became a voice student and I learned how to become a vocal coach because I wanted to know what is that power? How do we get that power out of our bodies and out of our sound? Because when you're singing an emotional piece, it's the same with speaking, right? The mechanics of if I'm going to sing an emotional piece from here, you're not going to feel anything that I'm singing about. If I'm singing from the fullness of who I am, the depth of emotion, remember everything is vibration. So if we're fully in our bodies and we're singing with all of our being, that emotion is going to come across in the singing. People cry when they feel touched by the frequency of emotion. It's all vibration. So the physicality of voice became important to me because I wanted to learn how to get better at it. And then when I became a vocal coach, I learned how to help other people. And this is going to sound, I don't know, maybe a little bit woo woo, but to get in touch with their true self through their voice, right? So they could be who they are. I worked with a lot of teenagers. This one young woman in particular was very lost. It's hard. Teenagers have a hard time in this world right now. And everything was black, black clothing, black hair, heavy black makeup, everything was black. And she was imitating what she saw as the next new thing to do. And, her whole mood and attitude was like dark. And I just looked at her and I said, "Who are you under all that?" And she's like, "What do you mean?" Well, by the time we got done together, all that went away. And who she really was inside came forward. She was writing her own songs about the expression of herself and sharing that, with an audience that just soaked her in. She needed to be seen. And most of us have a need to be seen and heard. And as children, we're not often given the messages that that's okay. We're often asked to, be quiet, the adults are talking. So,
Yeah, even now, that's so strange, because somebody had told me once, and she was at that time in her 70s, and she said, "I've started to feel invisible, as if no one really wants to listen to me." And I told her, my daughter told me when she was old enough to be able to express what she felt as a child. And she said, "Mom, sometimes when we were in the car and we were talking, and even if one of us was saying something, suddenly you would interrupt us and start talking." I said, "Oh my gosh, that's true." Because grown-ups, however loving they may be, and because she feels free enough to talk to me, knowing that she's not going to be punished for what I'm open to that. She could tell me that. But I said, that's very true. So grown-ups, the most loving grown-up parents also treat children as if what they're saying is not really important. And so they're just showing you the same thing when you grow up. So
yeah,
let's become more aware of this aspect and just listen. What I love is when the story you just told was, I mean, the that you listened to this girl who came
yeah,
to you, and something within her showed you that she wants you to bring that out of her. She needs to
yes,
see that someone outside her is interested in who she really is, and she doesn't have to hide behind the color.
yes,
Yeah, this is
yes,
so beautiful to me because it shows that when you have that voice, you also have the listening.
yes,
You
right.
should
They
have
go
a very
together.
good listening.
Yeah, yeah. And that um for me that ties into singing children home and why how that title came. Singing children home doesn't mean I'm singing to them to comfort them. I mean, that's we can all do that, whether we like our voices or not, whether we consider ourselves singers or not. It's for the child to discover their own voice and make their own song and sing because they deserve to have the gift of their own voice expressed. And in that, they find their way home. Here in the body, they become fully embodied and fully expressed. And for children who are in a compromised state, PTSD, the children in the LA fires, children in the floods last year, all the things that are going on our planet, for children to have a voice and the right to be heard by their own self, let alone anyone around them who is willing to listen. That is a huge gift, especially children who are in hospitals where all they're hearing is the medical and the disease and the fear and the control and all the things. Like, they're not their disease. They're a being, they're a person, and there's so much more than what they're dealing with in the body. And who are they in their own expression? And can we receive them from that place?
Yeah, so I mean, literally, what you're saying is so huge. It's so much more than just learning how to speak in a certain way. It's literally letting a person. I love this so much because I mean, I want to use words which it helps a person to realize that how important they are to themselves. I mean, the moment we learn that this is where within us is everything we really need, and that when we express with another person, we're expressing from a point of strength and not from weakness. We need one another in human society. This is very important. That's how
Mhm.
we become fully whole. But we don't go as a We're not seeking crutches in one another. We're just seeking proper connection, good connection, so that's when the co-creations take place. So
Yes,
what you're
yes.
doing, Danae, really, as you're talking, I already was so inspired by the things you do, but just this, I feel like letting it just sit for a bit. What a beautiful thing that you are doing. I
Well,
really, yeah, sorry, go
I,
ahead.
I love that your daughter felt safe enough to say, here was my experience. I mean, we don't even know what our children's experiences are. For her to feel safe and welcome to say, by the way, here's my experience. How informing is that? It's amazing.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
not only about herself, but about her brother. I mean, I felt so nice. This shows so much compassion for one another, love, and then realizing, and then finding the words. I know this is a little far from our topic, but very often as parents, we wonder, why don't children tell their parents when something horrible happens to them? And I realize it's because they don't have the voice. And again, talking because I just have my children really close, right? And once my daughter said, "Mom, I didn't tell you something. It wasn't something horrible. It was something else." And she said, "But I knew you would know." And this actually brings me to the opposite thing, Danae, because when you're breathing, you're also breathing. You're breathing out, so you're expressing, and then you're breathing in, so you're I don't not you're inspiring. You're in, and that moment of silence is also speaking. Can a parent or another person listen to that? I think that's it, like you did with the girl who came to you. She was silent when she came to you.
Yeah.
And in her silence, you understood her message. Really, I'm so excited by this. This is so beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And this is good because I have a family event later today, and I needed the reminder about the preciousness of silence and how that speaks. Thank you for that reminder.
Yeah, that's why we are in one another's life. Danae, I want to ask you a little more about the Singing Children Home project. I was there, I think, when you were sort of starting it. I'd heard a few things, and I'd love you to know to tell us, how did it start? Is it the same? What's going on with that?
Yeah. Oh, and I'm going to do my best to be succinct because I could talk for hours about that. So, in 2010, I lost a little girl, not my own, but a friend's daughter, to a rare form of cancer. And she loved to sing. She would go around on her floor, the cancer floor at the children's hospital, and all the other children were younger than her. And she would go to their rooms and she would sing to them like prayerful song, or she loved Miley Cyrus, uplifting songs. And I very much wanted to record her. And we didn't get that opportunity because she got weak fast and then she died. And so I made a promise to her that I would, if it's within my power, I would not let that happen again. I would not allow another child's voice to be lost because we didn't get to them on time. So I had some pretty big ideals going on. That's not possible for one person to fulfill that. That's just not possible. So I had to get sober about my big promise and make it into bite-sized pieces. So what I've done is I've worked with children who are compromised in some way, whether it's a bodily disease like cancer or kidney disease or heart disease, to children who are emotionally compromised, PTSD. Maybe their parents got divorced and they're freaked out, or maybe they're a teenager who's struggling with all the kids committing suicide around them. And I take my vocal coaching practice and my international touring artist singer practice, and I put it together and I meet with that kiddo and I start to just hang out with them, like how you and I are hanging out talking. It's conversational. And I ask them about themselves and what's going on in their lives and how they feel about what's happening. And as we're conversing, they're warming up and they're telling me more and more. And then they already know that we're going to write a song together. They already know that because they have to want that. No child can be forced to write a song. And then as we're talking about it, I'm taking mental notes. And then we start to just write some words down. Like, how do you feel about your cancer? Well, I'm not my cancer. That's just what my body's doing. But I'm like this big, powerful being. And so I'm like, oh, great. And I'll write that down. So they don't have to do any writing. It's not a mental thing. It's a heart and body thing. And I have them breathing and, playing with them. And then after we have the words, I'm very, very good at songwriting structure. So I will recognize like a rhythm or a beat if I read the words, and I will read the words in a rhythm, and that child will start to respond and say, oh, I don't like that word. Let's make it this word. They write the song. I do not write it. It's all them. And then we sculpt it so that the way you write a song is, if there are 4 beats to the first line, there can be 6 beats to the second line, but then the next line should be 4 beats and the next line 6 beats. So you're always matching rhythms. And then we clap and we speak it, and we clap and we speak it. And as I'm doing that, and as they're speaking with me, they naturally, and I love this about children, they naturally start to sing it. They can't help themselves. The rhythm and the formation of the words brings out a melody. And I have the recorder on my phone on at this part of our visit because I'm capturing their melody for their words, which is an expression of who they are. They are not their pain and trauma and disease. They are inside that, like something in a cocoon that wants to spread its wings and come out. So that's step 1. That's all step 1. Step 2 is when there is funding, we then get that child in a recording studio or put them in a recording situation. And this is where my vocal coaching comes in. If they're not naturally singing or they think they don't have a good voice, and I teach them how to sing their song, and then we record it. And I work with different musicians who are instrumentalists. I'm a vocalist. I don't play anything. And then I send it to my different team of musicians, and they write the music to go with the melody that this child came up with. Then when that piece is finished, we go back, we have the child put on headphones and listen to the music while they sing their song into the microphone. And then we have a complete song. And I have this up on YouTube. And then we're able to make copies of that song. They could give it to family and friends. And it's especially precious for the children who are going to end up dying, because they're leaving a legacy of their own spirit behind with their voice and their own story about who they are. And that lives on. That lets that child's life live on. So that's the entire program.
That's so beautiful, Danae. And so then the parents have it to listen, the families have it to keep listening to it. When the children are singing that song, they are not in tears. They feel strong, even if they know that, wow.
Yeah, the children, they're not, it's the parents who are grieving. The parents are more connected to the potential loss or the suffering of the child, but children have a child's point of view on things. They're lit up. They're just naturally lit up, and they're being able to express themselves and be received by other people lights them up even more. I know we'll do links at the end, but hearing Justin with his song, he almost died. He was like that close to being dead when he was 9 years old, and he survived the whole thing. And, his body functioning is compromised now for the rest of his life. He doesn't have the same capacity and functions he had before. And he is so full of love and happiness because he gets to be alive. He wrote a whole song about that. It thrills me. It just makes me so happy. And because I'm not a nonprofit, because I don't have the kind of mind that can run a whole business like that, I'm going grassroots with it. Another musician and I are going to do house concerts all over the United States, just she and I. And at those house concerts, we'll give education about what Singing Children Home is, and people have an opportunity to donate to that program. And then we pay musicians to go and work with the kids. I'm one person. I can't get to so many children, but if I duplicate myself, wow.
Yeah, you could. So actually, do give any contact or list that, I mean, that you have right now. You
Yeah.
can.
Yeah. So if people want to go to singingchildrenhome.com, it's a website, it's out there. Singingchildrenhome.com explains the whole entire program, how it works. There's different kids on there giving their responses when they got to try it out. And Justin's song is on there too. And there's a donate button. People could contact me and say, I want to sponsor a house concert. What do I do? Let's set it up. And I'll be like, yeah, let's do it, because this is my life's work. This is my heart's passion. This is what I'm here for the rest of my life. And watching children get lit up about sharing who they are is the greatest joy I know.
That's beautiful, Danae, because I know that you have so many gifts of which I'm also going to ask you about in a bit. But about Singing Children Home, so you have, I know you said that you also accept donations. How do you do the house concerts? You mean people contact you and then you go to another city with all the musicians?
Oh, yeah.
How does
So
it work?
this is the big learning curve for me in this lifetime. I've never, because my passion goes ahead of me, I've put myself in many situations where I mean well, but we come away with no money at all. So here's the opposite example. On December 7th, I did a huge fundraiser, and I knew what all my expenses were. I had a sound person, I had a lighting person, I had a videographer, the venue was free, and I worked it all out on paper. Each of these people gets paid this much money, then I need to pay my main musician. How am I going to come up with all that money, right? And so the whole team sold tickets to all their family and friends, and then we made it available virtually. So it was broadcast live online, which takes the limitation out of who can get there physically. We had 65 seats, we had a full house, and then we had a whole entire audience online, and they didn't pay for tickets. The people in person paid for tickets. The people online just donated freely. And not only was I able to cover all the expenses, we have about $450 left over so that I can hire a musician like Stacy. She played piano and sang with me, to go work with a child. So I'm duplicating myself by, if I don't go work with a child personally, I train someone in my program, they can go work with the child. So if you think about it, if we duplicate this throughout the United States, and I have singers and vocal coaches throughout the United States who are trained in this program, how many more children will be reached? So to answer your question directly, right now, Stacy and I are only going where we can drive locally. So the whole Denver, Boulder area of Colorado, Colorado Springs, Fort Collins, the university areas. We're working with Colorado Children's Hospital, St. Joseph's Hospital, where we're putting the rubber to the road and giving it a go. And we're doing that in 2025. Once we have that down solid, then we'll start to be able to have enough income to maybe afford to fly somewhere, to fly to Florida or drive to Florida and come down and do a house concert, in your area. So the host of the house concert, it is their responsibility to get 20 people minimum, up to however many they could seat, 30, 40, 50. There's a whole formula that I learned from someone who's done this for years, and they worked out all the kinks. It's the host's responsibility to fill the seats, not mine. That's the part that's so hard for me. I'd rather just deliver the medicine of the music and lift people up and inspire them, especially with what's going on politically right now, to help people get in their power, find their voice, and do what they need to do to bring peace and normalcy to our world. So that's the host's responsibility. They have all the promo stuff from me. They set it up, and maybe they want to use a little hall. Like maybe they live in a place where they have a clubhouse and they don't pay to use the clubhouse. Well, they could fit 100 people there. Right. So I'm not paying for the venue. They're not paying for the venue. And the way this woman developed the system is the tickets are $30, because having a private concert in your home is very intimate. And being up close with that kind of spiritual nourishment and the singing along and the joining voices, it's an act of power for everybody. It's different than going where there's 1,000 people and someone's way away on stage. And she said people will pay $30 per ticket to have that kind of an uplifting, enriching experience, especially knowing the money is going to pay our expenses. And then beyond that, everything goes to the pool of money to help the children write their own songs. So that's how we're doing it. And we're openly seeking people who want to jump in on that for 2026. We're going to stay local in 2025.
Sounds great. It's good you're getting a strong base and then moving forward. We're doing a similar thing with Co-Creator Circle. I've opened it up for membership, and slow and steady, because it's not only about getting everyone to join, but it's about being able to deliver whatever people are seeking and what Co-Creator Circle is seeking to do.
Yep.
So I love this because we also have a program called Co-Creative Solutions, of
Uh-huh.
soul. And let's see, we'll talk later about it and see what we could do about that together. Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah, we would
Yeah.
love that kind of help. So just to understand, when you do this concert, it is a singing concert of you and with your pianist, right?
Like I'm like the children who we're working with, unless they're so well, so you're a visionary, and so you're asking, that brings up my visionary side. Like, let's say I come to Florida, and there's so many places that work with children down in Florida. I've already been there. I've worked with one of the Paul Newman's serious fun camps. Let's say you have children who are strong enough and well enough to write their song and then learn their song. And then let's say someone offers to sponsor a house concert and those children are nearby. I could bring those children in and have them be the stars, like Stacy's my music partner. Stacy and I will do a certain amount of songs, but we could bring those kids up and let them have all that love and attention and be seen and heard and be the star. Like, that's my bigger vision. And I know I need to get, like you said, slow and steady, get the stability, get the formula down, get all the kinks out, and then work toward bringing those children into the house concerts. They would have to be children who are local to that area. And that fits fine with me because when I made my children's CD, when my son was a baby, I started a group called Lullabies for Little Visionaries. And it was for children all over the country or even internationally, where I was going to take that vocal coaching program on the road and create a little choir of local children and then have them do a concert for their family and friends. So I can still do all that with children who are well and well resourced. Of course, that's easier. And with children who are fighting for their lives, so to speak, there's a lot of gain for them, because this kind of self-nurturing, this kind of music medicine can help a child get the vitality they need to move toward wellness, whether they heal their body of their disease or whether they heal their life and their emotions. Even if the disease goes forward, they're still oriented from an empowered, embodied place of knowing who they are.
So I'm even thinking, Danae, children who are not around you physically, can you do this virtually?
Oh,
You can do this program virtually. So
yeah.
before you reach a place, you've already trained some kids. Have you done this well, you haven't needed to because you're right now working on around you.
Well, that's what happened with Justin. When I was in Florida last year and I brought this program to Camp Boggy Creek in Florida, I worked with the children who were attending the camp, and it was children who had heart disease. So I got to work with them as a group, and I like the group experience because the children inspire each other and work creatively off each other. And it was amazing to watch them go. I also had the opportunity to work with Justin one-on-one, and he happened to be around 1 mile from the Airbnb I was staying in. So I did two-hour sessions with him in person, and that's it. Then I came back to Boulder, Colorado, and all the rest of the work we did was virtual. Everything, even the recording, it was virtual. I worked with a recording studio here, and then we sent him all the tracks, and then I trained him over Zoom, and then we had him. I wanted him to have the experience of going to a recording studio near him, but I didn't have enough time to get a recording studio local to him to partner with my program. Everything was happening fast. But that's another way it can be done, that I could work with the kids virtually. And if there's a recording studio in their area that wants to partner with Singing Children Home, then we can give that kid an experience of going into a real live recording studio. How exciting is that? So yes, the whole program can work virtually.
That's very exciting, really. Lots of ways of going in different directions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that. Also, I'm thinking, Danae, for years you have also guided meditations of Gaia, of Mother Earth.
Yeah.
And I think that what you're doing now is just like a branching onward. It's
Yeah.
when we say Mother Earth, then this is the mother energy, allowing that to rise allowing the real growth to take place. And it also shows that, imagine who are the children who are receiving this, children
Yeah.
who are ill in some way or the other, and it helps them to understand that maybe that illness. I realized that when my kids were small, that sometimes the illness isn't about the illness, but about what happens as a result. The people
Yes.
that you meet, the places that you go, and what opens up because you had an illness. Like even when I went for my voice lessons, I met certain people and I had certain experiences. I said, wow, it was about that and not
Yeah.
really about. So that's what you're doing for people.
Yeah.
You're showing them that what was a challenge and a problem was actually an opening, an opportunity.
I mean, it's a gift, right? Like I almost died from an autoimmune disease in my body. It's about 10 years ago now, and I was on my deathbed. And I remember thinking in my mind, because I was in so much trauma from my body shutting down, I remember thinking in my mind, if it's my time to go, it's my time to go. But I didn't fulfill what I need to do musically, like there's so many people to touch with music. And when that thought came, there was also tremendous energy with it. I mean, I could barely speak. And what my intuition said to me in that moment was moan. And I was like, why would I moan? Like, I'm a professional singer and vocal coach, and I'm asking, why would I moan? Because in those moments, the trauma took over. I forgot who I was. And my intuition kept saying, moan, moan. And so I would moan. And when I moaned, Meenakshi, like humming, right? Even humming gives your body vitality and energy. I had so much energy from moaning. And then the next thing I heard from inside was, now tone, go from moaning to toning. And I did. And then I had even more vitality. And it just progressed until after 3 months, mostly laying in bed, suffering, I was upright in 2 hours flat, walking around my house from singing. Our voices are powerful medicine. Our sound is an elixir for our bodies. It's pretty big stuff.
This is huge. Talk
It's
about
huge.
talk about talking your walk. Wow, this is great. Yeah, so this really is Yeah, this showed you the importance of voice in your own life. You really talked your walk and walked your talk. That's beautiful. I love that. Danae, so I just wanted to ask you, like the hospitals that you work with, is it easy for them to, I mean, how do you enter them? How do you get to talk to the kids?
How do I get to talk to the kids is what you're asking.
Yes.
Well, and that's the, Meenakshi, you're always so crystal clear. It always blows me away. I love that about you. You're like right in the beam, you know? Um, that is the challenge. That is the challenge because I am not a medical person. I'm not a nurse. I'm not a music therapist by any paperwork. I'm a music therapist because I've always been that and I've learned a lot of skill sets. Stacy, my music partner, actually works in the hospital. And so we're going through her connections. It's not that they're children. I can help many children who are not in a hospital. I don't have to go through a hospital. And I know that those children receiving treatment for whatever their body condition is have the most need, like Amanda did. And so I very much want to go into the hospitals. We're working on that piece. She has the credentials because she works in the hospital to say, you know, and I have testimonials all over the place from parents and children. So I have all that. But, respectfully so, hospitals protect the children. That's their job. They're not going to let just anyone come wandering in. So I'm right in the middle of working on that piece. Other than that, there's all kinds of organizations that have support for children. I've gone into the school systems and worked with guidance counselors. Who do you know that keeps coming into your office that is crying out for help? There's a lot of ways to access that. But for me, it comes down to I'm one person. And my self-care to keep myself well and healthy is my number one priority. So how many children can I actually reach in a month? Which is why I'm excited about the house concerts and duplicating my skill sets through other people so we cause a wave. And I'll dare to say this right now, Meenakshi, with what's going on politically, even us adults can feel like we don't have a right to have a voice. Even we can feel like we're disempowered and we're silenced, and whatever is served up to us is what we're going to deal with. And that's called bullying. And that's not the truth. Who we are and what we have to say, our voice matters. Our choices matter. The consciousness we carry matters. So what I love about the musical approach is people are more receptive to storytelling and songs than they are direct conversation. Most people's right brains enjoy a story or a song. But if you get into a debate with someone, it just causes tension. So I see this as a love revolution through music and through joining together to help take care of our need to know that we're safe and we have the right to make our own choices, and to come together and give that gift and offering to the children. They're our future leaders. We need to model embodiment and empowerment for their sake as well as our own.
Very true. I had before I had this conversation with you, I had a bunch of questions I wanted to ask. And what I love is that just in talking, you have answered so many of those questions and, of course, opened up some others which I hadn't even thought of. Uh, I really love, Danae, that I see in you also. I see how the work you're doing has given you a new life. I don't know, it seems to be that way, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Meenakshi, you may not see yourself this way, but you're one of my teachers. You have walked me through, you know what I've been through, and you have walked me through a heck of a journey that I've had to go on the last 4 or 5 years by asking clear questions from your heart, from the kind of seeing that you have from your wisdom, and offering it up without judgment. You've been like a leading influence for me all along the way, mirroring back to me I can have capacity. I can have strength. I can trust that I do know what I do know. And I've been given that by the spirit realm. And that which is wise inside, I can count on it. I can rely on it. It's for my life. And if there's something in what I say for someone else, they'll recognize it. It's not my job to tell them this is for you. How could I know that? It's someone else's life. And I learned so much of that by being a guest on your platforms, but also watching how you have facilitated the other guests on the platform as well, and saying she's delivering that with very strong love and no judgment. Look at her go. And that's helped me grow so much. And I don't know if I've articulated that to you quite this way before, but you're instrumental in my life.
Wow. Thank you. That's such a sweet thing to say, Danae. You brought tears to my eyes. You know, you were talking about mourning, and I love that phrase so much, mourning to toning, because I was in a ceremony once where I felt the feeling of Mother Earth. And you know, you and I are connected through Gaia's, that
Yes.
consciousness so much. And I just kept feeling that she's saying, don't we know that we are, don't they know, she kept saying, don't they know we are all interconnected? And I kept saying, why? And I started mourning. And I said, allow me to do that. It's not sadness. There's nothing wrong there. But
Yeah.
sometimes you feel the pain of others, or you feel the pain, and just doing that helps it to release. And then I read somewhere scientifically that yes, it massages your insides and things. So when you're actually even injured, instead of telling people, just like we say, don't tell children not to cry. It's the same thing with don't tell them not to mourn. If
Right.
somebody is in pain, mourning is the natural way nature has given us all the beautiful tools of voice,
Yeah, yeah.
you know?
Like, and even humming, like right now, if I want to invite you to play with this with me for a moment and everyone else is watching, humming also brings up the relaxation response, right? So, and that's another thing on a practical level when the vocal cords are getting tired, like if we forget to be deep breathing to give rise to our voice and we're speaking from here, humming vibrates the body and all the organs. So let's just take a few seconds and just whatever feels nourishing to you. We don't have to be in the same note or anything, just to close our eyes and let's just give our body a little hum for, maybe 20 seconds. Let's enjoy that.
Yes.
And after the humming is the silence.
Well, do you feel that we have shared everything that you wanted to? Do you feel complete, Danae?
I do. I pretty much feel complete. The only thing that's popping in is I've done a lot of couples counseling as well, or coaching couples. And what you said before, it just brought up one last point for me, which is, if you're hurting, you moan, right? Same with anger. Sometimes when couples get into like fighting, or it's like, stop, go to your primal nature. And what do you want to do? Do you want to growl? Make sounds. And then that releases the tension of the point and the counterpoint and all the words, and just lets the animal body release the stress. You could get on the floor and walk like tigers and just walk around growling together. Before you know it, you're not going to be mad anymore. So that's just a tip for the adults in how to use voice.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Very important. Become your favorite animal or something like that when you're
Yeah.
instead of fighting. Wow, that's great. That's a
Yeah.
lovely tip. But I'm not complete, Danae. I want to ask you, I know we've mentioned things about which are not very pleasant happening in the world. We've sort of But otherwise, what do you feel as humanity, as humankind? What are we co-creating in the world today?
Yeah, beautiful question. I honestly do feel like as humanity, we are an evolving species, specifically right now, that we are shifting our functioning, shifting our wiring. Like, I imagine scientists, if they were to test the incoming babies and toddlers, they would find a different kind of genius, a different kind of access to self knowing and intuitive wisdom and capacity, not just greater mental genius, but a different flavor of the human species where we're more aligned and connected and sensitive and intuitive, and that's okay, that people don't need to be put on drugs to numb them out, to flatten the light and the brilliance coming through them. So I feel like we are giving rise, we are giving birth to a whole new awakening of cosmic proportions in our human species, that we're going through a morph. And I feel like everything that's happening on a planetary scale, from the political structures to other structures that seem to be coming unglued, to global warming and everything breaking out on the earth, fires and floods, all of it, I see it as a birthquake. I feel like we're shedding the structures of old that do not honor who we are as loving beings, and that we're giving birth, we're giving voice, and we're giving birth to a version of our species that is much more normally and naturally compassionate, loving, attuned, caring, where we look after one another. I do feel like that's where we're going. And this is the shakeout. You know, birth is messy, right? Birth is messy. I feel like we're in a massive birthquake, which is why Midwives for Gaia, I still stand behind that terminology. We are midwives for the birth of the planet and the birth of our species, going to a whole nother level of loving conscious evolution. I believe that that is what's happening. And it's like I keep saying to my friends, I will not stand down from love. Love has purpose here, and love is what I'm following. And I will not stand down. I will not give in to fear.
Well, then, Danae, we have to do the Midwife for Gaia meditations again.
All right.
I know you have a full plate, but yeah, maybe
Yeah.
we can go back to doing them at least once a month or
Yes,
at
that's
some
what I
time.
just heard. I just heard
Yeah,
once a month. Get on there
yes,
with Meenakshi and give what is ours to give. Do what is ours to do.
yeah, that would be beautiful. Thank you
Mm.
so much, Danae. This has been such a pleasure. And the breath that you were talking about, I felt we were breathing together somewhere inside us. There's a playlist of songs going together, and
Uh-huh.
it's just been such a healing and an inspiring conversation.
Yes, it
Thank
has been absolutely lovely. Thank you for this opportunity. It means the world to me.